When you're hunting deer based off of a management technique, you have to somehow quantify them and qualify them as far as what are you looking at.
I've got management bucks on this ground that desperately need to be removed. And Dan? Ooh, he's more than happy to shoot management bucks. He's every bit as happy to shoot a management buck as he is a 160.
This is where it all begins.
My best hunting day ever. This is Deer and Deer Hunting TV. Oh, he's an 8-pointer. No, he's a 9-pointer. No, he's a 10-pointer. You can hang a ring on it, it counts. 1, 2, 4, 5, huh?
Keep going, you can get higher.
He's a 10-pointer.
I'll be brutally honest with you, for the last 5 years or so, don't get me wrong, I always look forward to hunting seasons, but I've really looked forward to Illinois' shotgun season, their first one. Specifically because my good friend Dan Schmidt and his little camera buddy David get to come down and play with me every year. And that's what this stuff is supposed to be about. I know we talk so much about trophy bucks and how to manage the ground and make your deer healthier and make your habitat healthier, leave the world a better place for generations to come, and that's all good and great. But you know what? This stuff's supposed to be fun. The longer I ride this rodeo circuit, the more success I have, the more I realize that ultimately you scrape away all this other stuff, and you know what? This junk is supposed to be fun. And frankly, what you see, most people, I'll give you a little inside information into the industry here. 9 times out of 10, when you see somebody's reaction after they kill something, it is fake as a $4 bill. Dan Schmidt, that stuff's real. That boy loses his snot every single time. And God, that is a blast to be around. So, and at the same time, another part of the reason I look forward to it is because I've got management bucks on this ground that desperately need to be removed. And Dan? Ooh, he's more than happy to shoot management bucks. He's every bit as happy to shoot a management buck as he is a 160. So, and frankly, he's good. You put that gun in his hand, you go ahead and show him this buck, and this buck are all 3 of them that very well may show up where you're hunting, that if they do, you shoot them. And that boy, he does. He shoots them, and then he flat out loses his snot, and then he gives me a call, and that buck is always right there because it's nice and easy to find because he made a good shot. And that is what we're going to do today. Today, we're going out with Dan Schmidt on a management hunt.
So this is like homecoming for me. It's every year, West Central Illinois, my good friend Steve Bartilla, he has us down, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it is really good deer hunting land. It's some of the best in North America. It is a large piece of property that Steve manages, and the deal is I'm gonna go there and help him manage his doe herd and his buck herd. And with that buck herd, we're talking about, people say management bucks, it kind of has a negative connotation. The only real reason we use that term, management buck, is this is a buck that is not going to manifest itself to a trophy Boone and Crockett class deer. That's pretty much it. That's what we mean when we're talking about management bucks. Steve has lots of management bucks because it's a big property. It's several square miles of the best habitat in North America. I cannot overemphasize that.
Coming up, Dan talks about different slug gun setups and tactics for whitetail hunting while he helps Steve manage the doe herd in Illinois. And then Dan targets a specific management buck that gives him a case of deja vu. You're watching Deer and Deer Hunting TV. Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Technology Plus. Apply it, try it, and go hunt. Remington, America's oldest gunmaker. Get armed and deadly with Easton FNJ arrows. And by 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. There is no substitute. This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Redneck Blinds.
Are you thinking of getting into deer hunting this year? I know a lot of people are. And there's a lot of areas where you have to use a shotgun. In some areas you might not have to use one, but you might want to use one. Here are 3 things you should consider if you're looking at a shotgun for deer hunting. Number 1, how much deer hunting are you going to do? Are you a bird hunter, a rabbit hunter, you do a lot of different things, and you might deer hunt for a week? Then I would suggest, a gun like this. This is what I started with. This is Remington 870. Nothing fancy, it's a do-all gun, and it's an awesome gun. I've had this gun for over 35 years. If you look at it, sounds like an 870, it's built like a rock. It is a really nice gun that's all-purpose. Doesn't have a scope on it. You say, do I need a scope? Not necessarily. I hunted with this gun for over a decade without a scope, killed a lot of deer with it. The nice thing about the 870, it's solid. This is a 12 gauge. This has a bead on the front. The thing you need to consider is you have to run a lot of ammo through here to get used to that gun. No different than your pellet gun or your 22. Learn the gun and you'll be able to shoot deer with this no problem. Second thing you need to consider, what types of ammo should you use? There's a lot of shotgun ammo out there and some of it's pretty expensive. So what you want to do is read up on it. One thing I'm going to tell you, write this name down, Dave Henderson from Endicott, New York, the be-all, end-all shotgun expert in America. Find his book, Shotgunning for Deer. It's going to teach you more than I can teach you in this video. But you're going to learn all about slugs. A gun like this, remember, a Foster-style slug. You don't need nothing fancy. One thing that a lot of people might want you to believe is that rifling in a shotgun barrel is going to help it spin. That's not true. That's a myth. Rifling in a shotgun barrel does not make that slug spin when it comes out of there. A Foster-style slug, which shoots really good out of a gun like this, basically it's the design of that slug, the weight of that slug, and the retention of that slug, which making that slug accurate downrange. Now, when I'm talking downrange with a gun like this, no scope on it, 50 yards, 75, you get better than that, I'd like to hear from you because that's some awesome shooting. But with some practice and the right ammo through a gun like this, you'd be well off shooting deer at 50 yards and less during deer season. Now, the third thing you want to keep in mind is if you're going to do a lot of deer hunting and that's all you want to do, then I would recommend a dedicated gun just for deer hunting. Right here we have a Remington 870. Same gun as this. This is a 12, however, and this is a 20 gauge. This one looks different. It's got a nice black stock. It's kind of cool. It's tricked out. You can get a dedicated gun like this for just a little bit more, add some nice optics on it, and make sure that it's a dedicated shotgun scope. That's important because not all scopes are the same. You put a rifle scope on there, you will ruin it immediately. Shotguns punish scopes a lot more than centerfire rifles. So the other thing you want to do, same thing, on a dedicated slug gun, you want to pick out a few different types of ammo, and this is where it helps to go in with a buddy. You're going to go to the range, get that gun sighted in pretty much with whatever you've got on hand for slugs, and then you might want to buy 2 or 3 or 4 different boxes of shells. Because if you look at a shotgun, the bore tolerances they're different. I can't tell you that this slug is going to shoot best out of this gun. It might for me, it might not for you. Your gun might just be a little bit different. So that's the trick with slug gun hunting. There's a little bit of a science there, a little trial and error, And then when you find the slug that works best out of that gun, stick with it because it's going to take you through the long run. Oh, she's down right there. I saw her go down. She did the death dodge. She stopped and she ran down the hill. The best part about going looking for your deer is when you see a white belly 100 yards up in the woods. Let's go get her. That little 20 gauge, man, that thing is lights out. That little 870. 870 with the SIG Optics scope on it. That is a big doe. Look at that. That's a big doe. Yes.
Every property has a cap on how many mature bucks that ground can handle. Okay. By shooting the lower end bucks, what you do is you increase the odds of your higher end bucks not ending up having to disperse because they get crowded out. No guarantee. All you're doing is playing the odds. And this buck right here is absolutely perfect for Dan to shoot as far as I'm concerned.
This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Matthews.
It's that time. Opening day gun season. Look forward to this every year. It is beautiful out here. It is 32 degrees, just a slight hint of a wind. And we're going to a spot where I think we're going to see some deer. So it's our first sit. We're not even in the stand for maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes. A little bit of flash in the woods. Here comes a buck. He's a pretty nice one. I'm getting pretty excited. I always say I'm an equal opportunity deer hunter. If my knees shake and I get excited, it's good enough for me. This is a mature buck and I'm excited. His rack is kind of different. He's got 4 on one side. The other side, I didn't know if it was deformed or if it was broken off. That really didn't matter to me. The score's nothing to me. Good looking deer, but it was kind of hard to know exactly which deer I was looking at. So I held off. So we go back for lunch, gonna grab a quick sandwich. Steve's there, so I meet with Steve real quick, and we're going through some trail camera photos. Sure enough, that buck I saw that morning was indeed one that I could shoot. So we're gonna get back in that stand as soon as possible and see what happens. Deja vu. There he was. Same trail, same routine. Only this time, I wasn't hesitating. Man! He's down right there. He is down right there. I'm shaking really hard. That was so awesome. We saw that buck this morning and I passed him up. We only have 8 bucks on our shoot list for this hunt. And when you're hunting deer based off of deer that want to be taken off the property, you really got to be careful. That deer, he was a mature buck. He had one blue busted point, but he's really nice. He's a really nice buck, and I'm shaking. I'm so excited. It was so close. He was 15 yards.
Should take a time out here for a second. When you're in a position like this, and you are enlisting the help of friends to help manage a property, these are the type of mistakes you really want. You want them to be overly cautious. Turns out in this case, Dan was. He passed up his first opportunity. Didn't pass up his second though. That second chance, now that Dan was sure that was one of the ones that he was sent in to take, sent him right back down in there, and you darn right they made it happen. Because that buck happened to be a homebody to that area.
He's an old warrior, look at that. Yeah, he was just a 7-point. A couple little extra characters, and he had busted that 2 right there. We just punched our tag. Yes. You know, that's the thing about deer hunting, especially during gun season and at the tail end of the rut. You see a buck in the morning, that buck might be cruising, and you never know when he's going to come back. Exactly what happened here. That buck made the exact same loop that he made that morning in the afternoon. So you always got to be on your toes. You never know when that deer might come back through.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Thompson Center, America's master gunmakers. Sever broadheads, straight through it. Hunter Safety System, stay connected. And by Cuddyback, CuddyLink, 16 cameras, 1 cell plan, $10 per month.
Okay, I no longer drink soda, but this is too cool. So I'm going to buy a soda for Steve because I can, and we're going to see what this is about. It's on a thing. Now, how can you not love this? Look at this, 50 cents. Whatever our options. You wanted a Diet Dew. Let's see the Diet Dew. And it works. The simple joys of deer camp. And it's a camo can, look at that. Cool. Okay, so with crossbow hunting, it's a little bit easier because these things are so incredibly fast. This is a 10-point Nitro XRT. It shoots up to 470 feet per second. That is incredibly fast. It's going to take that arrow, allow me to use these crosshairs in the scope. Now I can dial this scope to the speed of the crossbow, and that's going to help me out even more. But once I know that breaking point, okay, I know that my second crosshair in here is good to 30 and beyond. And the third one's going to be 40 and a little bit beyond. So that's my breaking point, 38 yards. So what I like to do is I like to err on the side of being low, believe it or not. Because I don't want that arrow to hit high. If I'm going to hit anything, I want to hit a little bit low because that's going to take out the heart. I'm aiming at the lungs. So in this case, I'm taking my second pin and I'm aiming just a little bit high on my aiming point. So let's take a shot and see where we're at. Okay, this is going to go to a couple things here. Now, we're not going to sugarcoat this and we're not going to reshoot it. First of all you bow hunters or against crossbow hunters, save it because that's only 38 yards. This is not a gun. That thing dropped. I was aiming right here. So that shows you how much that arrow can be off by just a little bit. This is not super easy. It's just like shooting a bow. Yeah, it's a crossbow. It's faster. I can hold it up, it has a trigger, but it's still shooting an arrow. For me, this is bow hunting, but that's another discussion for another day. What I'm talking about here is, okay, for here, what I like to do is I like to shoot at oblong spaces, oblong shapes. This is what I was aiming at right here. When I talked about hitting low, for me, that's a little bit low, but it's not that bad, because if I'm aiming at the kill zone at that distance, I'd rather be hitting down here, because on a deer's body, it's going to be down farther into the heart area. I'm aiming at the middle of the lungs. If I hit high, then I've got problems. Then I'm hitting high through the lungs, I'm hitting them in the back, and I don't want to do that. Another thing that this is going to tell me is, for me, that's the max range for me. I do not want to shoot beyond 38. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get that dialed in. Okay, I might be able to push this to 40. I'm not going to lie about that. But that's about my max range with that crossbow, and I'm going to be happy with it. But I'm going to practice those tweener ranges to make sure that I'm hitting exactly where I'm at, rather than practicing at the nice, easy 20, 30, 40-yard ranges. Hi, I'm Dan Schmidt. For more tips, strategies, and hunting action, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching Deer and Deer Hunting TV.